What are you doing in the technical area? I'm just fixing my van. This is a military zone. Civilians aren't allowed here. A young engineer stepped forward, ready to call security. The woman silently pulled up her sleeve to wipe sweat from her forehead. And at that moment, an older officer froze in place. He whispered, eyes wide, "That tattoo, it's real." Her name was Lena Morales, 38 years old, small frame, brown hair tied back, wearing a faded gray work shirt and oil-stained khaki pants. She was fixing her old van in the auxiliary parking area near the technical section of Valridge Air Force Base. Lena wasn't current military. She worked part-time supporting the water treatment systems for the base cafeteria, a small job that nobody really noticed. Her van had broken down on the road, and the gate guard had allowed her to push it into an empty area of the technical yard to fix it herself. But when she bent down to work on the engine compartment, a young engineer walking by laughed. "You sure you should be touching vehicle systems in here?" A lieutenant with a stern face approached. "Who are you?" "Let me see your access card." "I'm just fixing my own van." "Doesn't matter. This area doesn't allow civilian personnel." Lena just bowed her head, not arguing. Her hands were covered in grease. She pulled up her sleeve to wipe her forehead. And then, a faded silver tattoo was revealed on her right arm, a broken winged hawk with coded unit numbers. Colonel Monroe, who was inspecting a UAV array nearby, happened to glance over. He went completely still, then stepped forward. Very slowly, what the young engineers saw was a civilian woman who didn't belong. What Colonel Monroe saw was something that shouldn't exist, a tattoo from a unit that had been declared dead for 15 years. The Hawk Breaker Unit 09, a specialized mobile engineering team that had operated in classified zones during the early years of the Afghanistan conflict. A unit that had been listed as killed in action after their base was overrun. No survivors, no bodies recovered. But here was someone wearing their ink. Monroe's mind raced back to a mission report he'd read years ago. A base that had been saved by an unknown engineer who'd restored critical navigation systems under fire. The report had been classified, the details redacted. But there had been a photograph. A small woman standing amid burning equipment, face mostly hidden by a soot-covered mask. And in that photograph, the same tattoo. Comment, "I've seen this," if you've ever witnessed someone being underestimated, only to have everyone go silent. Lena was ordered to leave the area. "Please move your vehicle out of the technical bay." She nodded, closed the hood, and quietly packed her tools. But Monroe couldn't take his eyes off the tattoo. He pulled out his phone and called the tactical data office. "I need verification on a Hawkbreaker unit tattoo. Unit 09. Details, broken winged hawk, code OXB-7-7. Within minutes, the response came back. That file was classified top secret during Operation Cinderline, 2008. Tattoo bearer unknown. All unit members listed as KIA. Monroe turned around, but Lena had already left the yard, leaving only small tire tracks on the concrete. He quietly went to his car and opened his personal laptop. On the desktop, an old photograph he'd kept for years, taken after an unknown Air Force engineer had reactivated a navigation station in the burning desert. In the photo, a small woman stood silent among the damaged equipment. Her right arm bore a tattoo identical to what he'd just seen. Her face was mostly hidden by a burned mask. The photograph had haunted him for 15 years. The woman who'd saved his entire unit, then disappeared without giving her name. And now she'd been fixing a van in his technical yard. Monroe made a decision that would change everything. He accessed classified databases he normally wouldn't touch. What he found made his hands shake. Operation Cinderline, final report, Hawkbreaker Unit 09, mobile engineering status, all personnel, KIA after base overrun. Exception, one unidentified female engineer maintained navigation systems under enemy fire for 17 days. Final status, missing, presumed dead. But the most chilling detail was in a medical report. Unknown engineer sustained severe injuries, but continued system repairs until evacuation was complete. Last seen entering burning communications bunker. No body recovered. Monroe realized he'd just met a ghost, someone who'd been declared dead but had somehow survived, someone who'd saved dozens of lives, then vanished into civilian life. The woman fixing her van wasn't just any contractor. She was the legendary engineer from Cinderline, the one whose actions had been classified because they were too incredible to believe. He made another call. "I need Lena Morales brought back to base, not as a civilian, as someone we need to interview immediately." An hour later, his aide called back. "Sir, we found her. But she says she's been expecting this day for years. She just hoped it wouldn't come." Monroe understood. She'd been hiding in plain sight, doing small jobs, staying invisible, because the alternative was explaining how she'd survived something that had killed everyone else, and why she'd never come forward to claim recognition for actions that had saved an entire base. Comment too late if you've ever missed an important detail, only to realize it changed everything. Monroe had personnel contact the Reserve Engineering Office to find civilian records for Lena Morales. The results left him stunned. Lena had served from 2004 to 2008, specializing in mobile frontline technical support. She was listed as KIA due to going missing for 17 days after the Cinderline base was attacked. Nobody knew she'd survived. He ordered Lena to be escorted back to base, not as a civilian, but as someone requiring urgent investigation. When Lena entered the temporary command office, she showed no fear. "I knew this day would come. I just didn't want it to." Monroe asked directly, "You're the person in the Cinderline photograph, aren't you?" "I tried to fix the navigation system. I succeeded. But when I came out, my entire unit was gone. Nobody left." "Why didn't you return to service?" "I had nothing to return to. I wanted to live quietly, without any more recognition." Monroe stood up. "You don't need titles, but I need everyone to know who saved our lives that day." But Lena's story was more complicated than even Monroe realized. She continued, "I wasn't supposed to be at Cinderline. I was on medical leave for a knee injury. But when the base was attacked, I was the only engineer close enough to help." "So you went anyway?" "I heard the distress calls. I knew the navigation system. I couldn't let people die because I wasn't officially assigned to help." Monroe realized the full scope of what had happened. "You saved Cinderline base while you were technically off duty?" "I saved the navigation system. Other people saved the base. Ma'am, without navigation, we couldn't have coordinated the defense. Without navigation, air support couldn't have found us. You saved everyone." The investigation revealed more details that had been buried in classified files. Lena had worked for 17 days straight, repairing critical systems while under constant enemy fire. She'd survived by hiding in maintenance tunnels, emerging only to fix equipment that kept the base operational. When rescue forces finally arrived, they found the navigation systems fully functional, but no sign of the engineer who'd maintained them. They assumed she'd been killed and her body destroyed in the bombardment. But Lena had escaped through a drainage system, then spent months recovering in a civilian hospital under a false name. By the time she was healthy enough to contact the military, the base had been rebuilt and everyone assumed she was dead. Rather than complicate the official records, she'd chosen to stay dead. Monroe made an announcement to his staff. "Lena Morales is hereby reinstated in all military records. She's not required to return to active service, but she will be officially recognized as the sole survivor of Operation Cinderline." But Lena surprised everyone with her response. "I don't want media attention. I don't want ceremonies. I just want to continue fixing things and living exactly like I did every day I survived at that base." A young technician asked, "Ma'am, why did you risk your life for a base you weren't even assigned to?" "Because when you hear people calling for help, your assignment doesn't matter. Your ability to help does." Monroe realized something profound. "You've been working on this base for 3 years, fixing our water systems. You've been taking care of us, just like you did at Cinderline. Because taking care of people, that's what engineers do." Comment, "They're the real heroes," if you've ever seen someone who deserved recognition but chose silence. Lena declined all media proposals. "I don't want to appear in newspapers. I just want to continue fixing machines, living exactly like I did every day I stayed behind at that base." Valridge Base installed a small technical workstation in the maintenance hangar, with a wooden nameplate that read, "Lena Morales, who never abandons machines, just like she never abandons people." Young engineers began passing down the story. If you encounter terminal software failure, use the Lena-09 protocol. That's how she saved the entire navigation station from burning. Every time Lena pushed her repair van into the lot, the duty guards automatically raised the barriers without asking questions anymore. But the most important change was invisible. 3 months later, when Hurricane Maria threatened the Gulf Coast, Lena volunteered to help evacuate a civilian hospital that was in the storm's path. She worked for 72 hours straight, maintaining backup power systems while evacuation teams moved 200 patients to safety. Nobody filmed it. No reporters covered it. But hospital staff later said that without her, the evacuation would have failed when the main generators flooded. 6 months after the tattoo discovery, Valridge Base had the highest equipment reliability rating in the Air Force. Not because of new technology, but because Lena had quietly trained the maintenance staff in repair techniques she'd learned during 17 days of keeping systems running under impossible conditions. A year later, when new engineers arrived at the base, they were told, "If you ever think a repair is impossible, ask Lena." She once kept an entire navigation system operational while the building was on fire. Today, military engineers across the country use improvised repair techniques that originated with Lena Morales. They don't know her name, don't know her story, but every time someone keeps critical systems running under emergency conditions, every time an engineer chooses to help even when it's not their assignment, every time someone fixes something that everyone else said was broken beyond repair, her legacy lives on. Be like Lena. Help people regardless of whether it's officially your job. And when they ask for your credentials, let your results speak for themselves. Because the most important work is often done by people who never stop caring. Comment, "I believe in quiet service," if you've ever witnessed dedication that didn't need applause. The tattoo on her arm wasn't there to show off. It was the last remaining memory of a unit that had been forgotten. Lena Morales didn't need glory, didn't need rank. She just needed a good wrench, a working engine, and a place to quietly fix the things other people had given up on. Her story reminds us that not everyone who leaves the military leaves their responsibility behind. And sometimes, the person who saved your life is someone you accidentally walked past. Look closer at the people around you. The contractor fixing the water system, the civilian maintaining the equipment, the person doing small jobs that nobody notices. They might be carrying ink that tells a story you'd never believe. They might be heroes who chose invisibility over recognition. And they might be the reason you're still here, even though you never knew their name. Honor the quiet ones. Thank the people doing unglamorous work. And remember that the most important service often happens without ceremony. Comment, "She spoke through action," if this story changed how you see ordinary people.